slide and it doesn't have the rubber pieces on it. Good. Will it catch? Who's channel set?
There we go.
I think so. There we go. Okay.
You're fine.
So tell me when we can.
I'm good.
Good?
Yep.
Good. Okay. So good morning, and everyone, welcome to our historic Kenmore East building. Welcome to the Kenton School District. First, I would like to thank the Kenmore East community. Actually to begin, my name is Sabatino Simano. I am the superintendent of Kenton. I'd like to thank our Kenmore East community led by acting principal Joe Greco, assistant principal Sean Seidel, and acting assistant principal Cesar Marchioli. I would also like to take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation for the district attorney, Mr. John Flynn, who is here with us today, and his office for facilitating this opportunity. Caitlin Monroe, thank you very much for everything you've done for Kenton. Within the next few weeks, this same presentation will be conducted at Kenmore West, our Big Picture program, as well as Hoover and Franklin Middle Schools in Kenton. We know that we are in a very unique time in our history. More than ever before, our students are exposed to tremendous opportunities in learning, especially through the use of technology. But with this opportunity comes many challenges that we must continue to be ahead of the curve and address before they can actually turn into potential problems. The lessons our students learn today, being careful about what they post online and anti-bullying, is extremely important. There were times in the fall and in the winter in which concerning screenshots or rumors circulated online which impacted our schools and our district as a whole. These incidents create a great deal of alarm for our students, families, and staff. It is more important than ever before to remind our students to be careful of what they share online because of the potential consequences they face for using technology inappropriately. It is wonderful that our students have technology at their fingertips, but we must continue to educate on how we use that technology wisely. In fact, during this morning's presentation by our DA's office, it was emphasized how colleges and employers do a deep internet search on all of their potential candidates. It's important for students to realize that. It is essential for students to learn about cyberbullying and being safe online. This aligns with our strategic plan, the Kenton Forward, which is our long-term blueprint to continuous academic achievement. Our focus areas in the Kenton Forward are instruction for all students, technology, community engagement, finance, safety and operations, social, emotional health, and wellness. You can see how the focus of this presentation by the DA's office can fit into each of these 5 areas. Preventative mental health, restorative and trauma-informed practices, behavior and social skills programming, a focus on safety and security, and anti-bullying initiatives are the essential components of this plan. We have high expectations for our students in Kenton, and we will work with our students so that they raise up to these expectations. Kenton was ahead of the curve and at the forefront of this work even before the pandemic. We were building an extensive framework for social emotional support, and we became one of the first school districts in Western New York to implement trauma-informed care practices district-wide. This work has been enhanced over the past 2 years because of the pandemic has created new social emotional challenges, making this work more important than ever before. Earlier this school year, we made a strategic investment in the creation of our Office of School Culture. I'd like to thank Assistant Superintendent Tracy Spagnolo, who's here with us today, as well as Ms. Dina Ferraccio, Director of School Culture, who first began working in partnership with the District Attorney's Office to bring these presentations to our schools. We have prioritized this work in Kenton with numerous initiatives to improve social emotional outcomes and keep students and staff safe. Colleagues, this is an unprecedented time that we must have our eyes wide open to the challenges that our young people continue to face. Through initiatives like this and deep partnerships, I am confident that we will remain proactive in meeting the needs of our students. Once again, thank you to District Attorney Flynn for his leadership and initiative in partnering with us to bring these presentations to our school. The safety of our students and staff is paramount, And we are very fortunate to have such strong partnerships with local law enforcement, such as our district attorney's office. And now, please help me and please join me in welcoming District Attorney Flynn to the microphone to hear about the important programming and his address.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And again, I want to also thank the Kenton School District, Superintendent Samato, along with the school board president, Matt Shamera, and the assistant principals and principals here at Kenmore East, along with the principals and assistant principals at all of the elementary schools and middle schools of the Kenton School District. Superintendent Samato talked about leadership. It's his leadership in recognizing this important endeavor. It's his leadership that has invited me into the school system here in Kenton to tell the students the dangers of not only social media, but the dangers of violence in general. We are seeing, as Superintendent Samato stated, an unprecedented amount of violence in schools, not only here in Buffalo and Erie County, but across the country. I don't need to tell you all what this nation has faced when it comes to violence in our schools over the past 20, 30, 40 years. Far too many incidents. And when I took over as district attorney, one of the things I wanted to do was establish a school liaison program. That was one of the first things I did back in 2017 when I took over, where I modeled it after my police liaison program. My police liaison program was a program that, quite frankly, my uncle, the former DA Ed Cosgrove, initiated back in the 70s, where a specific individual assistant district attorney in my office was assigned to every police agency in Erie County. I did that on day one when I took over in 2017. And then, after a while, it dawned on me, well, you know what? I need to do the same thing for our school districts. So I did. I have an assistant district attorney individually assigned to every school district in Erie County. And that school district now has a liaison in my office that they can call for whatever. A violent incident, training, education, coming in and talking to students, whatever needs to be done. It's that relationship with law enforcement and our school district across Erie County that fosters a safe environment, not only for the students, but for the staff as well. It's not just about students, it's about staff as well. Remember, 2 weeks ago at McKinley High School, a staff member, a security guard, in addition to a student, got shot. So this is about student and staff members at all of our schools throughout Erie County. And, so since the beginning of the school year, unfortunately, we have had a number of incidents where there have been threats that have affected schools. Lockport High School had 4 of them between September and December of 2021. 4. Batavia schools had 1. Olean City schools had another. Allegheny Limestone had 1. Niagara Falls High School had 1. Pine Valley had 1. Gowanda, Southwestern, Western Middle School in Erie, and Grand Island Central Schools in Erie County as well. So it's not just Erie County. It's Erie, Niagara, Genesee County, Cattaraugus County, Chautauqua County. It's all over. It's all over Western New York. It's all over the nation. And these 13 separate social media threats since the beginning of the school year closed down the schools for periods of time. McKinley High School, as we all know, was closed down until Monday. As the superintendent mentioned, they had here in Kenton a number of incidents earlier in the year where there were some things said on social media. Again, I get them too because my kids go to school here. Fortunately, it did not rise to the level of having to shut anything down, but it was still In addition to those 13 right there that closed down the schools, there have been hundreds of others that have not fortunately led to a close down. But the incidents were still there. The threats were still made. So what happened today, you had the 8th graders here at Kenmore East sitting in this auditorium right here. One of my assistant district attorneys, Alicia Lilly, came here and spoke to the 8th graders about cyberbullying, about school threats. And we've done this all over Erie County since the beginning of the school year. We've had a number of these training sessions throughout the city of Buffalo and throughout Erie County. We've had it at West Hurdle Elementary School, Dr. Lydia Wright Elementary School, a number at Southside Elementary School, a number at IPREP. Beside Kenton, Eden Middle School took advantage of this. We went to Eden back in September. We've had presentations at Discovery School, along with Bennett Community Campus. And Kenton now has taken advantage of this. On March 9th, we were in Franklin Middle School. Yesterday. Today, we're in Ken East. Next week, we're going to Hoover. After that, we're going to Ken West. So, Superintendent Samadi here has recognized the need for this, as had the Buffalo Public Schools and other suburban schools throughout the country. I decided to come here today to showcase, quite frankly, Ken East. All 5 of my children went to Ken East. My youngest daughter, who's in the background right now here, Gracie, is a senior at Ken East. So my last of my 5 children now have all gone through the Kenton School District, and I, quite frankly, can't say enough about the Kenton School District. I chose to have my kids go here. I chose to live in Tonawanda. And my children have benefited from the leadership of our great school board president, Matt Shamera, and our great Superintendent Samato. My 5 children have benefited from that, and the least I can do is to come here today and thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership.
Any questions? Yes.
Why do you think there's this increase in cyberbullying? Have you done any studies that show why there's an increase?
Because I believe that it is much easier to threaten someone on social media. I mean, we've all heard the phrase going back to when we all were kids, when you hear about beer muscles, all right? When people drink too much, they get beer muscles. It's the same on social media. You get social media muscles because it's much easier to threaten someone when you're not looking at them face to face. And again, obviously, just the expanded proliferation of social media throughout, I mean, you name it, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, I mean, everything. I mean, every day there's a new platform out there. And so every day you have a situation where more and more kids can get on a new platform. And when you get the more platforms you have, the more chances you have for kids willing to do something and hurt someone on social media. And they have to recognize that. They have to recognize that those seem to be, in their mind, harmless comments that they make can lead to violence. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail because it's still under investigation, but I can tell you that the incident at McKinley High School 2 weeks ago, there was a social media component to that.
So,
There was a social media component that ultimately led to a 14-year-old getting stabbed in the parking lot 10 times and a security guard getting shot in the leg, and another student getting grazed by a bull as well. I'm not saying it was all because of social media, but there was a component to it. And that's what happens when things go too far at night.
yeah. Why do you think
talking to the students is going to be effective. You know, you said there was an assembly already. I mean, sometimes assemblies will go in one ear and out the other.
Absolutely.
So
I was sitting there 30 years ago, no doubt about it. Okay. Natalie, you gotta try. You can't just assume they're all asleep. You know, you have to try, and you have to. I'll tell you what kids listen to. Again, I got 5. I'm kind of an expert in kids. All right. Kids listen to violence, and kids listen to dramatic stories. And there's been a lot of drama in the past week or so when it comes to kids. You know, we've had 2 kids from Lancaster get killed in a motor vehicle accident. The other day we had 2 kids from Clarence who were killed in a motor vehicle accident. Now that's a different subject about, obviously, you know, kids driving too fast and kids not being safe behind the wheel of a car, which again, you know, we also in my office kind of incorporate that around prom time, where we come to schools and talk about the dangers of drinking and driving and the dangers of kind of driving in general around prom season, which coincides with graduation season. So, you know, kids pick up on sensationalism. And so if you can impart examples, knowledge about tragic things that happen, like a 14-year-old getting stabbed 10 times in a high school parking lot. They can visualize that in the Kenny's parking lot here. They can visualize, you know, what that scene is like. Even though it happened at McKinley, you can visualize that if you're an 8th grader. And so you hope it gets through. You got to keep trying.
John, so what are some of the messages that you tell these kids if they're experiencing something with cyberbullying or with the social media threat? What's the message from your perspective to these kids as to what actions to take? Because you certainly don't want to see them just sitting and watching this stuff unfold and letting it happen.
Well, the first action, obviously, is don't do it. Okay, don't participate in it. Don't. You know, I always tell my kids, you know, before you press that return button or enter button, all right, think twice. So think twice before you know, press the button on your cell phone or press the button on your computer. That's the first message. The second message is, if you see it, report it. Tell someone. If, God forbid, you're a victim of it, tell your parents. Tell a teacher. Tell a counselor. Tell whoever. You know, tell someone about it because, you know, they can do something about it. They have the resources here in Kenton to help the kids out. Buffalo Public Schools, they have the resources to help kids out. And so you got to not do it, and then you got to report it when you see it.
I know that you're out here talking to these students at Kenmore and other districts throughout the county, but what other programs is there available from a county's perspective, at least, in terms of trying to avoid similar incidences from occurring as to what we've seen at McKinley or some of the other threats that you pointed out earlier?
Yeah, again, we have a lot of things at our disposal. We have the gun violence impact panels that we do in the Buffalo Public Schools. You know, we gear the gun violence to mainly the inner city schools in the city of Buffalo, because that's their biggest threat, quite frankly. So we have the gun violence impact panels. We have the cyberbullying social media panels that we do mainly in the suburbs, but also in the Buffalo Public Schools as well. Like I mentioned earlier, we have, and again, the past 2 years of COVID, we haven't been able to do it, but hopefully now we're getting out of COVID here, and we can do it again, you know, this spring, where we have a, you know, prom graduation impact panel, where we come to schools and talk about the dangers of drinking and driving, drugs and driving, and we do that. We have, now again, you know, I'm hoping there's going to be money for it this year in the state budget, because there wasn't when they did it last year. They passed a marijuana legalization, where I asked for money for education. And so I'm hoping that Albany puts some money toward that this year in their budget. And then if they do, I'll be back here, and I'll be back here to educate the students on, hey, even though marijuana is illegal now, you shouldn't be driving under the influence of marijuana, and again, it's only legal for 21 and above, not you. So we're gonna do that, hopefully, if we get money for public education. So, you know, there are numerous things that are out there, especially from my office, that we're doing. And another thing I'll mention as well is that, you know, Kenton has some of the greatest school resource officers in the county. I know them personally, obviously. And so I want to thank our school resource officers and the Town of Tonawanda Police Department and all the police departments across the county who participate in the school resource officer program, and they really are on the front lines of keeping our schools safe. It's my understanding that there's going to be, in the next couple of days here, some type of agreement now in the Buffalo Public Schools with the new interim superintendent to bring in more security in the Buffalo Public Schools. I'm not familiar with it, like, you know, all the details, but it's my understanding that those talks are in the works.
In regards to the social media threats, or even just posting anything on social media, I think one of you mentioned, you know, how that can impact you looking for colleges, looking for jobs. Some kids at that age might just be posting, thinking it's funny, thinking it's a joke. Like, how do you explain this is harmless and this is really serious? Like, the difference, the line, I guess.
So, a fantastic question, and it's something that the schools have to face every day, and quite frankly, families and parents have to face every day, right? Because I think sometimes in 2022, our lines get blurred a little bit. Kids need expectations, folks. They need high expectations. The only way you set those high expectations is by being very direct and explaining to them, this is the expectation, here's the consequences when you don't meet the expectation. So kids understanding, the more we talk to it, our Office of School Culture, it's something that we implemented. It all boils down to the culture that you cultivate, whether it's at home, whether it's in the building, whether it's in their regular everyday life. Understand that every action has that consequence, it has a benefit, but it can also have a consequence. So we talk to kids about applying for college. They do the kids taught me this, deep Google. Samato, it's deep Google. They do a deep Google search. They want to see what you're posting on Facebook, Snapchat, like our district attorney said. All of these things will impact their future. It's difficult for a 14-year-old to comprehend that something that they're putting on Facebook at 14 could come back to haunt them at 25. But it doesn't mean that we don't keep on hitting it. The more we hit it, the more we educate, the more we're consistent with that message, the more that they'll get it.
I know that both of you gentlemen have talked to the students about getting messages out there about the awareness of cyberbullying, but what about from a parent's perspective? What would your message be for parents, whether you know, they observe whether it's their kid or another kid or something like that? What are some of the messages that you're sending along to parents?
I think just to reiterate a piece that I just said, the best advice that we could give to parents, because parenting is not easy. In 2022, it's not easy being a kid. It's not easy being a parent. The best thing we can give to parents is be consistent. Be consistent, talk to your children, understand that there are a lot of things that your children are exposed to when they're not with you, and continue to have those conversations, but also have the high expectation for your kids, right? There's nothing wrong with good old-fashioned high expectation. This is how we do it. This is what we expect, and then they have the school and the community follow suit, and now we're hitting our kids from all angles. Because that's what it takes with an adolescent, let's face it. We all went through it, we all were 14, we all were 15, confused on what we were going to do in the future, and listening to presentations going in one ear and out the other. That's why the consistency is so important.
What, as an educator, what age or what grade level would you like to see these presentations start? I mean, obviously you want to reach kids early, I would say, before or when they first start to use social media.
We're lucky enough that the district attorney is working with us, and really they've told us whatever we need, right? And we're starting with our middle level and moving up from our middle level, but it's not too young to talk to elementary students about this. I've seen a lot of young kids, first, second, and third graders, with, as the district attorney was talking about, with this in their hand, right? And with that comes tremendous responsibility. We talk about vehicles, we talk about phones, all of them have a tremendous amount of responsibility that come with them. So there really isn't too young of an age to start.
Now, have programs like this been conducted anywhere else in the country, or are we the first?
They've been all over the country. As you may or may not know, I mean, I'm the incoming president of our National District Attorney Association. I'll be taking over in July, and so I am very familiar with what district attorneys are doing across the country. And so, this is a thing that, listen here, district attorneys are in schools all over this nation because, listen here, the district attorney is the chief law enforcement officer of their county or their district, wherever they are. And so, as the chief law enforcement officer, we have a responsibility. And that responsibility is to keep our communities safe. And, when it comes to the pecking order of places to keep safe, everyone should have schools at the top of the list. And I think that we all know that.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.